Hello and welcome. Today we're taking a look at a whole bunch of new makeup. We have the new Metallic Mauve Quad from Tom Ford. This is a new formula. We also have the new Dior Contour sticks, the blush duos. I picked up a couple of those, as well as the new Tom Ford powder and the new Byredo Refillable Lipsticks. So some of these are first impressions. Some of these I have worn just a couple of times. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start off with the Tom Ford powder. And this is a first impression. So the Tom Ford packaging for the powder is the same as the eyeshadow quads. It comes with the same little velour pouch. This is the powder. I have shade number 1, Alabaster Nude, and it does come with a little brush here. So this is the brush that it comes with. It's just a little synthetic powder brush, and I think it's sufficient to use it with that. However, I do prefer a powder brush. So take a look at this quick demo here, and you can see this is just a light dusting of the powder. I'm using the this is the Refer Holiday Bee brush. So this is the one that was available, kind of in the secret shop. So it's the 3D shape holiday brush from Refer last year. And I personally love this brush, so I use this one quite a bit. So I wanted to show you the powder application up close, and this is on top of the Koh Gen Do Moisture Foundation in 012 and a little bit from a distance. You can see it does go on very nicely. It's very easy to apply. It doesn't look powdery on the skin. It does give you kind of a soft matte finish. I think it's a really nice powder so far. So I definitely need to wear it a bit more to get some further details on this. But as far as first impressions go, the Koh Gen Do powder that recently came out, that is my current favorite, still reigns. This, however, I do think it's a really nice powder. So it's definitely a great option. So let's just take a look at a quick swatch here. And the good thing about this powder is it does come in different shades. So again, this is 01 Alabaster Nude, I believe. Yes. And you can see that it has a little bit more of a satin matte finish to it. And let me just kind of buff a little bit in here so you can see. And this shade in particular gives you a little bit of an ivory finish to it. The powder is made in Italy with a 1-year shelf life, and we have 9 grams of product. So first impressions for this are very favorable. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Dior Contour stick. So Dior recently came out with the contour stick. This is the Dior Forever Skin Contour, and it comes in a variety of shades. I picked up shade number 1, Light, and you can see we have an ovoid shape here, and I kind of like that. So every time you turn it, it kind of like, if you go to like the next oval, it's too soft to hear it, but it does sort of click into place when you get to that oval shape there. So I think that is kind of nice. I like the packaging on this. It's a matte black plastic here. And they also released their the Dior Forever foundation stick was redone as well. And that was released at the same time as this one. But Dior foundations are typically too yellow for me. I can never find a great match. So I didn't want to go ahead and kind of play that whole game of trying to find a great shade. I might check it out in person sometime, because I have to say the finish and formula for the contour stick, I really like it. It's smooth and creamy, but it's a lightweight cream texture. And when you spread it out, it really sinks into your skin. So it feels weightless. And that's what I like about it. I feel like some of these stick formulations, they can be a little bit heavier sometimes and feel a little bit greasy throughout the day. The contour stick formula, I have not had that issue. So let's take a look at this demo here. And as you can see in the demo, at first I'm applying this underneath foundation. So I wanted to try it with underpainting, typically with a cream contour product. That's typically how I like to apply them, and I put my foundation on top, so I just have a hint of that color, really easy to blend out. But you can see just on bare skin that this blends out so smoothly and easily, and you can really get like a soft color. You really don't need to use it underneath. So I tested the right side underneath foundation and the left side I put it on top, and I used the Koh Gen Do Moisture Foundation in shade 012, and I have that on as a base on the left side, and then I put the contour stick in shade 1 Light on top of that, and I used the Sonia G mini base brush to kind of blend those out. And I think both options are great. The best part is that I think this formula is really flexible. You can definitely build it up, but you can shear it out, and it shears out very easily, seamlessly, and without any sort of like textural differences where it might be a little bit heavier. So I think that's kind of the key to this, and the fact that this isn't a product that feels like oily or heavy as you move on through the day. So I think the contour stick formula is nice. As for the shade, this is definitely going to be a nice cool brown contour shade, but let's see how it compares to my favorite, the Westman Atelier contour stick in Biscuit. So when I do use contour, which is not super frequently, my go-to is the Westman Atelier contour stick in Biscuit, and you can see the difference in the tone here. The Westman Atelier has more red in it. And I have to say that pink hue does work well for me, but this is definitely going to be a more neutral brown, whereas you can see we have a bit more gray. It's a cooler brown in the Dior, which I think is perfect for contour. So shade-wise, I think they're both nice options, but I really do like this Dior shade. However, notice when you blend it out, it definitely gets a bit warmer when you blend it out than it does in the built up swatch. So if you want to see more of that gray base, you do need to use a little bit more product. Whereas the Westman Atelier, when you blend it out, really truly just looks like a lighter version of the built up Biscuit shade. Whereas the Dior looks a little bit warmer than the built up version. So just something to note, but I do think these are both great options. Next, let's go ahead and move on to the Dior Color and Glow Blush and Highlighter Duos. So I picked up two of them. I picked up this one, 287 Dior Amour. Let's swatch it, and then we'll look at Dior Riviera as well. So you can see we have first kind of this soft pink blush, and it's very light. I mean, like, you can barely see it. It's light. So let me just go over that one more time, and then we'll do a buffed out swatch over here. Not sure if you can really see it, though. It's very light. And then the highlighter shade on this one is a lavender. Let's go ahead, we'll put that right here. And I'm going to mix the two together and put a swatch of those right here in the middle. So here's a buffed out version of the highlighter and a buffed out version of the two mixed together. And honestly, they're so light, I can't really see much of a difference on my skin. And I have a fair skin tone, so, you know, it's light. We'll look at the swatches in a minute. Now, the next one I picked up is 257 Dior Riviera, and this one is a little deeper. And yes, I know I sound a little out of breath right now. I just have been running up and down the stairs. I had to pause it. Got grocery delivery, and they left it in the wrong spot. So I've been running all over picking up items. So anyway, here is this one. This is going to be more of a soft peachy coral. And you can see it's going to be a little bit deeper than the pink blush was. And then we have more of a soft golden highlight. And you can see that this gold has a little bit of a peachy hue to it. It's not just, you know, a straight up yellow gold. And mixed together, you get a really nice peachy golden highlight. So when we buff these out, here is the blush and the highlight. And here they are mixed together. So let's go through those again, so you can see those. And let's go ahead and move on to the cheek swatches. The Dior Rouge Blush Color and Glow Blush and Highlighter Duos have a 1-year shelf life. These are made in Italy, and we have 8 grams of product. They are a fairly firmly pressed blush formula. They are not exactly the same formula as those in the regular Dior Rouge line. It does feel a little bit different. Those tend to get hard pan very easily. And I feel like these may also develop hard pan in the future, but not as easily as those in the permanent line. These are going to be a softer, silky texture, but they do have a little bit of a chalky look to them. So you can see that they have a very light base to them, more of like a white base in the color. So I do feel on certain skin tones, these shades, at least the ones that I picked up, may look a little bit chalky or ashy. Now, as for the duo for Dior Amour 287, the pink and purple, it's very, very light. It's soft. So even on my fair skin, you know, I can get a really nice soft blush look with this. If you want one of those like barely there hint of color blushes, I can get that with this. And it's a really pretty color that way. However, this, it shows up, it's so light, and it's okay. It's just not great. I think Dior has done some very light blushes very well in the past, and the most recent ones have not been good. This one, I would say, is better than their most recent very pale pink blush, which we'll look at in a minute. That one doesn't really show up, but this is a little bit better than that, but it's just still not great. I don't personally find this particular color story to be worth it just because it is so incredibly light. Now, on a deeper skin tone, this may work nicely as a blush lighter. However, again, I think the base on this is just a little bit too white, which can kind of, you know, I think it maybe needed more of a soft pink base instead. So I think this color story is not great. Moving on though to the Dior Riviera, and for both of these demos, I used the Refer 04 brush, which is a fairly dense angled cheek brush, and I used that because, you know, I knew this was going to be a little bit more firmly pressed. So I used a dense cheek brush to really pick up the color well. Now with the Dior Riviera, this one is a little bit more strongly pigmented. The highlight on this one is going to be more sparkly. You can see there's more glitter and more shimmer in the highlight for the Coral Duo versus the pink and purple. The purple highlight in the other one, there's very little actual shimmer to it. You don't see a ton of like glitter particles or anything like that. There is some, but it's really more of a blush than a highlighter. So there's just not that much radiance from it. It's just slightly more radiant than the pink blush. Whereas in this duo, you have the highlighter shade is definitely going to be a sparkly, soft, peachy gold. And the two of these mixed together, it gives you a really nice, peachy, you know, kind of like one of those highlighter blush combos. And I think the blush on here is a really nice shade. However, I have to say that it's just not a really unique product, and since the formula itself is only okay, in my opinion, it's a mediocre formula. I personally don't think these are worth it. These colors are nothing like special or unique. So for me, these were kind of a fail. They're not terrible or anything. I will use them, but they're not worth it, in my opinion. So I wanted to go over a few comparisons. I wanted to start off with these two Chantecaille blushes, and then we're going to move into some Dior comparisons. But these are the Sunstone Radiant blushes. I don't love the packaging on it. However, the blushes themselves, the formula is fantastic. So this is the shade Confidence. If you're looking for more of a highlighting blush, I think this might be a really nice option. I'm going to put the Chantecaille ones down here. So here's Confidence, which is kind of a cooler pink. You see it's significantly more cool than the pink in the Dior palette. And then we have Energy, which is going to be more of your coral shade. These are incredibly silky. You have shimmer to them, and this is like a pinky coral, so it's a little bit more pink than those in the Dior Riviera, but you can see we get a similar level of radiance here. And yeah, I think it's a superior formula personally. Moving on to Dior, I wanted to take a look at a couple of their purple blush options. This is the Dior Rosy Glow in 63 Pink Lilac. You can see I do have hard pan on it. It's not a great formula for this color. You can see how patchy it is coming up, and this is going to be more of a pink shade than the lavender in here. So I do prefer the color in the new Dior. It has a little bit more of a bluer base to it. It's more of a true lavender. And then this is the Dior Rouge Blush in 290 Signature Shimmer that came out last year. And again, this is kind of a pinky purple option. This also gets hard pan very easily. And you can see this is going to be a little bit more pink than the option in the new Dior as well. This formula is terrible though. You know, it's hard to pick up. It doesn't kind of blend out evenly. You can see it's a little chunky when you actually get it with a finger, but when you get it with a brush, it doesn't come up smoothly or evenly. So, and this one also gets hard pan. So I personally don't love this. I just kept it around for swatching purposes, honestly. Now, when I said that Dior used to do some light blush as well, this is one of them. This is 361. This is the older formula of the Dior Rouge blush. And I forget what this one was called, but it was a limited edition. It had this really beautiful flower embossing on here. And it's a very light pink, but this formula, it will build up nicely and evenly and give you that soft color on your cheeks, and you can build it up a little bit deeper. So even though it's incredibly light and you see it doesn't even swatch super well, it goes on beautifully. Since they changed the formula, I feel like they haven't been as effective at that. So recently Dior came out with this. This is 280 Rose Popeline Matte. This is in the new blush formula. And this formula is, I mean, they're new ones. They've been hit or miss. Some of them have gotten hard pan right away. Others haven't. But you can see that this one here is going to be a very light pink. And it actually swatches better than it goes on to the cheeks. You can see this is a cooler pink, but our level of pigmentation is going to be about the same. This doesn't really show up on the cheeks either. So it's really more one of those shades that you can put underneath a blush to kind of like help blend it out, or, you know, add a little bit of a different sheen underneath. But it's not really effective as an actual blush. And I feel the same way about the pink in this new Dior Amour. Now, this is one of the permanent blushes in the Dior Rouge family. This is 475 Rose Caprice. And this is going to be matte. And this is going to be a little bit deeper. We'll put that one right here so you can kind of see how that compares. But again, the formula on this is just not great. This one has not developed hard pan. It goes on a little bit better than some of the other shades, but I just personally don't love this formula. I know, I just keep saying that. So those were some comparisons of some of the blushes. Personally, I don't feel like the duos are worth it. You can find the same colors elsewhere in better formulas. I do like the concept and I like the colors that they chose. However, I just think that the formula kind of drags it down, and this pink purple duo would have been much more effective if it had been a little bit more pigmented. And honestly, the formula needs to be a little bit creamier or softer or something. It's too firm, yet powdery. So it doesn't go on beautifully, in my opinion. So between the two, I definitely prefer the Dior Riviera. I think this one is nice. I'll definitely be using this one more. Honestly, I'm probably not really going to be using this one too much. So if you were to get one of these, I would definitely go with one of the deeper palettes over this lighter one. And again, I do feel like the base in here is more of like a whitish ivory base. So it just kind of ends up looking a bit chalky, even on my light skin. Let's go ahead and move on to the Tom Ford palette. So this is the Tom Ford eyeshadow palette in Metallic Mauve, and we do have a new formula here. And this made me think of Violet Satiné in the cream formula, as well as Pretty Baby in one of the older formulas. So we're going to start off, we're going to swatch this. And you can see this is going to be a silky matte. When you go in with a brush, you kind of just want to press on here. If you swirl your brush back and forth, you get a lot of kick up. And it's not just like a true powdery kick up. It's like a little clumpier, like a creamy powder. So just something to note there. And then, so that first shade here is going to be a soft, kind of a dusty rose with a matte finish. And then we have this shimmer here, and this shimmer has a little bit of a hint of a soft mauve to it. Our next shimmer is going to be more of a purple. And if you want to get more of this purple color, you really do want to use a fingertip or foam tip applicator to apply this. Otherwise, these two shades are sheer glitter formulas, essentially. So there's not too much color to the actual base if you use a brush and kind of spread it out. Our last shade here is going to be a deeper, rosier mauve. And I have to say, I do think that the palette has, it's definitely a mauve toned as advertised. It's not truly metallic. It's more just like glitter and matte. There's no actual metallic shade in here, but I do really like the color story. Let's take a look at the eye swatches and we'll talk a little bit about this. So this palette has a 1 year shelf life and we have 7 grams of product. It's made in Italy, and just like with previous Tom Ford palettes, it does come with 2 applicators. One of them is a double-ended foam tip applicator with a pointy end and a regular shader style end. The other one is going to have an angled brush on one end and another shader style foam tip applicator on the other. So that's pretty standard. That hasn't changed. We also still get the velour pouch with these. As you're looking at the eye swatches, you can see that the shadows go on very easily. They blend out evenly, smoothly. You can get a really seamless finish with these. The mattes go on very nicely. So this is definitely an improvement in their previous matte formulas. So I feel like a lot of their recent mattes that have been in this flat pan style packaging, those have been a little bit more patchy. They've been hit or miss. And these are definitely smooth, seamless. I think it's a nice formula. The glitter shades I'm a little disappointed with because I was hoping for something with more of a stronger base color with some shimmer, something more of a metallic based on the name here. So these are really just, more dense glitters. They are very smooth, incredibly finely milled, but they definitely can sheer out to be just used as a glitter topper. If you want to pile up that color, you really want to go in a little bit heavier, or consider using a fingertip application or one of the foam tip applicators that come with the palette. So I do like the colors. I love the color story. I do think though that they missed the mark a little bit by not providing some sort of true metallic shade. I wish that that purple shade had been more of a metallic instead of another glitter shade. I really love the lighter glitter though, because it's great as a topper, adds a little bit of color as well, but not very much. And I think that's a great shade to complement the rest of the palette. But I feel like the purple one should have had a little bit stronger presence in here, and it would have just made it like a favorite palette of mine. Regardless, I do think that this new formula is nice, particularly for the mattes. I'd love to see how they approach satins and true metallics with this formula. The glitters, again, are really just going to be a very firmly, well, not firm, but a very dense, finely milled glitter that, because it is a little bit more dense, they stick together really well. So you don't get a ton of fallout. You can get some, but they're going to adhere pretty easily and give you decent coverage if you choose. But again, they're really just a glitter. So let's take a look at a few comparisons. So I want to start off with this. This is the Tom Ford Creme formula in Violet Satiné. So this is a cream to powder, and I personally love this palette, and I really like the formula for these as well. So you can see here's the Violet Satiné right here, and this is our new Metallic Mauve. So you can see that they have a very, very similar color story. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. We start off here with kind of a soft light pink glitter shade. We'll put this one kind of right next to it so you can really see. You can see that we do have a little bit more of that soft pink there. Then we move into this more wisteria blue kind of shade, and this is going to be more of a metallic finish. We do have some shimmer there, and look at that. It's just a really beautiful shade. Then we have this more a deeper mauve, and you can see, let me put that actually right up against it. There you go. Not a great swatch. I'm not great at swatching with this hand, but look at those colors. They're almost identical. So you have very, very similar shades here. And then our last shade in this is kind of this deep eggplant purple. We'll put that here because it doesn't match the rest of the palette. So this is Violet Satiné in the Creme formula, and this is going to be our new Metallic Mauve. Between the two palettes, I think Violet Satiné is better because you can still get, light looks with it. You can also develop it a little bit deeper. I think this deep eggplant helps. And I love this bluish purple, how the actual base of the eyeshadow has color, whereas here, when you blend it out, I mean, you can see when I feather that out, you're really just looking at some purple shimmer to it. So you have more of a translucent base to it. So I think those are very, very close. The other one I wanted to look at is Pretty Baby. And this is in a much older Tom Ford formula. They have since changed this kind of flat pan style a few times. And, you know, I think this one was a great formula. And then there were, I think, 2 iterations after that that just weren't that successful. But look, you can see we do have some similarities with this one. It's not going to be as close as Violet Satin. We'll go ahead and use this one vertically. You can see this is more of a soft taupe here with a little bit of a rosy hue to it. Then we have more of this blue based purple, very similar in tone to these. It has a little bit more pink perhaps, but this is going to be a matte finish. Then we have this soft pink with bluish purple shimmer. You can see that that's like a duochrome almost. And then our last shade here is going to be a deeper soft brown with a little bit of taupe in there. We do have a touch of gray. So this is Pretty Baby. It's a discontinued palette, but it is one of my favorite Tom Ford palettes of all time. And yeah, I think this shimmer shade here, along with the purple, the 2 of those together, it just really made this palette, in my opinion. Plus, you got those great neutral taupes too. So overall, I think all 3 are nice color stories, but this new formula is still not as great, in my opinion, as these 2. So I do like the new formula. I will purchase shadows with the new formula. I think the mattes are actually fantastic, but I am just a little disappointed with the fact that we didn't see something a little bit more presence, like a metallic. Let's go ahead and move on to the lipsticks. And we're taking a look at the new Byredo refillable lipsticks. If you're not familiar with Byredo lipsticks, you have a very strong magnetic component. You can kind of move this so you can see we have a little bit more of a C shape here. You could have a little bit more of an S curve, and it's subtle. So our caps are in gold and our base is going to be in silver. So that has not changed. It still comes packaged the same way with the little canvas bag and the little push through a cardboard box. But these are now refillable. I haven't seen the refills available individually yet, but they should be coming. And when I received this one in the package, this was actually loose in there. It wasn't damaged in any way or anything, but just something to note. One of mine was not attached to the base and the other one was. So when you put this in, you do feel a bit of that magnet, but you want to hear the click, and then there you go. So we have a lot of shades that are repeats. So I picked up 2 shades. The first one here is Earth Dust, which I actually did not have before, but it is not a new shade. So let's go ahead and put this here. And you can see just from swatching that here, that this is going to be a softer, creamier formula. It's actually got a little bit more oil in it than cream. And it's going to be very, very highly pigmented with one swipe. So you can see that Earth Dust here is going to be kind of a soft, neutral brown with a little bit of rose. And then we also have 9 a.m., which is the shade that I'm wearing right now on my lips. And let me just swipe it like this because it's a little bit easier for me to see. This is 9 a.m. and you can see here that 9 a.m. is going to be a little bit warmer. We've got a little bit more pink in here compared to Earth Dust. So Earth Dust is a little bit cooler. So those 2 shades are new to me. I'm not sure if 9 a.m. was around, but Earth Dust was definitely around previously. So let's take a look at the lip swatches and we'll talk a little bit about the different formula. So the new formula has 2.5 grams of product. It's made in Italy and we have 18-month shelf life. These are still vegan. And the older formula has a 1-year shelf life, 3 grams of product, and is also made in Italy. Now, one of the differences with the older formula is it's a little bit thicker on the lips. So this is going to be a very thin, oilier texture. Think of something like the Chanel Rouge Allure L'Extrait. So you have that very thin, weightless, silky texture that glides on. It has a little bit more oil content. and it's very, very highly pigmented in color. So that's what we have here. But what makes this one a little different and a little special is after that kind of top oily layer wears off, you do have a creamy texture to this lipstick that is more reminiscent of a regular, old-fashioned traditional lipstick. I wouldn't say that it's exactly like that, but you definitely have, it's a reminiscence of it. So you do have a little bit of that creamy texture. So even after that top layer wears off, your lips are not dry. You still have a little bit of some sort of like hydrating, balmy texture to your lips. So the new formula, I think, is actually a very nice formula. Is it better than the old formula? I would have to say that they're just very different. I really liked the old Byredo formula, and those were going to be more of a traditional creamy texture to them, and they had a little bit more presence. Now, my favorite of the Byredo lipsticks previously were in the Shimmery Nudes collection, and none of those shades have been repeated so far, so they are still available for purchase as well. But this one here is in the old formula. This is called Commuter, and they do have this shade in the new formula as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one here on my wrist, and you can see that this is going to be more of it's a satin finish, but we have a thicker, creamier texture to it, more like a traditional lipstick. We don't have as much shine here. And yeah, that's kind of the difference here. These are also highly pigmented, but I would say that the older formula, because of this creamy texture and so forth, is easier to get a soft, more buffed look on your lips with the older formula than the newer one. When you go in with this, it wears very evenly. It, stains nicely on your lips. But if you're trying to use just a little bit, I just feel like it doesn't have that same look. You can get more of that blurred lip look with the older formula, whereas the newer one, it just kind of looks like something's missing. So it's really better for more of your high pigmentation looks. So just something to note there. I do think both formulas are nice. So I can't say that one is better than another because I just think that they're very different. But these are the new refillable lipsticks, and I think they are a nice formula, and I would love to see more shades. We're kind of missing some lighter shades. These are two of the lightest shades that they had. And I would love to see a light pinky nude still. I feel like the shades in the Shimmery Nudes collection from Byredo, let me show you one of my favorites. This one here is View of Rose, which I wear a lot. And, I feel like these are going to be like your cooler tone shades. The new collection here doesn't really have too many cooler tone shades that are not going to be like a deep, vibrant red. So that's just something I think that they could improve upon. This is, again, one of my favorites. You can see we do have a little bit of shimmer in here. It's called Via Rose in the Shimmery Nudes line. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know what you think of all of these products. Just a quick overview of what we went through today. We start off with the Tom Ford powder in Alabaster Nude. I think this is a really nice powder. So it was a first impression. We'll be taking a look at this again later on, but it does give you kind of that soft, velvety satin matte finish to your skin, and it's a really nice powder. It comes in a few different shades, so I like that. The Dior Contour stick was next, and I think the texture of this is fantastic because it really melts in. It's very easy to blend out, or you can build it up, and it's not like a tacky, sticky finish. And I really like the shade Light because it truly is a nice contour shade. A lot of times our contour sticks have been a little bit warmer than a true contour should be, particularly in those lighter ranges. And I'm really happy to see as much gray in here as we have. Moving on, we looked at the Dior Blush and Glow highlighters, and I feel like these were not a great release, particularly the Dior Amore, the purple and pink shade. That one is just a little bit, it has a little bit of a chalky base. It's very hard to get that one to really show up even on fair skin. So I just think it's an ineffective blush duo there. The Dior Riviera fared a little bit better, but again, it's nothing unique or special, so I just don't really think that one is worth it. However, if I were to pick one of the two, it would be the Dior Riviera, which I do actually really like. It's just not, again, anything special. And then we took a look at the new Tom Ford palette, and I really like the new formula for the mattes. I am excited to see these mattes in additional palettes, but I would have loved to see a true metallic for the Metallic Mauve. And instead, we have two glitter shades here. And overall, I love the color story. I think it's a really beautiful palette, but is incredibly similar to Violet Satin from the Crumb formula, which is one of my favorites, and it does not beat it. It's also got some similarities to Pretty Baby, which is another favorite Tom Ford palette. These are both previous releases, and I still think that they were a bit better than the newest Tom Ford. However, it's still a nice formula, and I will be picking up more palettes in this formula as time goes on. Then we took a look at the new Refillable Byredo Lipsticks, and the formula is very different from the previous one. I actually wish that they had kept the previous formula and just made refillable lipsticks, and then perhaps introduce this one as a new formula, because they are that different. This is going to be your thin, oilier texture lipstick with a little bit of a creamy base still, but high pigmentation with one swipe, versus more of your traditional creamy satin lipsticks, which really, you know, they're high pigmentation as well, but you can blend them out more softly, a little bit more easily than you can with this new formula. So I feel like they're different enough that they should have been able to keep both formulas and just made a distinction between them. So that's my personal opinion on them, but I do like the new formula as well. So let me know your thoughts. Please share them down below in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you very soon. Have a great day.